Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of VAFA Tragics. Great to have your company for another week, and what a weekend of football it was. Round 2 action underway, and didn't the weather play a part? Nick Armistead joins me as he does every week. Nick, how did you enjoy the weather? Did you have a rain jacket on, or did you have an umbrella?
Well, I was lucky enough to get a park at Carey Sports Complex there, so I was sitting in the car the entire time just watching Paddy Crabbe stand behind the goals and just cop a real bath.
You'd be a bit of a, I imagine you'd be the sort of James H type that would walk along and carrying the umbrella. You seen that photo a couple of years ago doing the rounds?
His poor girlfriend.
Sort of have your girlfriend off to the side and not be shading her at all.
Yeah, correct. Lucky I don't have a girlfriend, so I don't get caught out doing things like that. But I'm no doubt I'd be that type of bloke.
The conditions were unbelievable on the weekend, weren't they?
Outrageous. Like, we've seen some of the conditions on Twitter. Like Tony Jones, did you see that against Marcelin, and Pegs in the reserves?
Well, just on that footage from Tony Jones, you can see it there on screen. The game got called off because of rain, is that right? The umpires didn't want to umpire in the rain?
Well, I feel like there may have been hail. Or just really
I've played in hail before. You just get on with it. It hits your skin and it hurts a little bit, you move on.
Yeah, well, correct. The umpires were just being,
precious.
Very efficient.
Precious in the twos, mate, down there at Marcelin. The footage I liked, though, was down at Peninsula at Pirate Park. Great to see him back at the school, by the way, as well. The Pirates against Fitzroy. Now, a bit of footage from their social media team. I think this might feature later on in best use of social media as well. But so get a chance to watch it twice if you're watching the show. Have a look at this guy at the scoreboard coming through. He's in a t-shirt and shorts. Now, it was fairly obvious what the rain conditions were going to be doing on the day, and this was in the senior game. The major rainstorm was in the twos early, so I imagine he's a twos player. He's just on the t-shirt and shorts. Look at him cowering away under the scoreboard there. Brilliant stuff.
You know what I love, though? I love that there's 4 of them.
Yep.
A scoreboard attendant, you really only need the one. Let's be real, but none of the boys wanted their scoreboard attendant to go one out, so they're all standing there
I reckon
together.
It's the reason why a lot of grounds are now getting these electronic scoreboards, so you can sit back on the other side of the ground with your mates and you can just do it on the other side. Having to stand on the outer side of the ground by yourself doing the scoreboard is not a fun job.
No, you wouldn't be standing in the rain at Toorak Park.
We might explore this actually. There's a fair few not fun jobs if you're not playing because you're injured. I remember when I was injured a lot playing, and you end up doing a lot of the dud jobs because you're needed. You're there, you're supporting your mates, but you do a bit of water carrying here. You might be doing a bit of umpiring, escorting, and that sort of stuff, and where you want to just be hanging out with your mates and having a bit of a laugh. But scoreboard attending might be, depends on which scoreboard it is, but certainly that rain. No good. The other one, some birds in Carey, that photo there, and Willie versus old Ivanhoe as well. Yeah,
this is fantastic footage at Chelmsford Park. The boys have clearly been told to go off for a little bit, and the hailstones are absolutely pelting down. But my favourite part about it all, bloke in the back saying how good footy. This is footy. How good is footy? Hailstones are pelting down. He was taking a break midway through the second quarter. Fantastic stuff.
It did feel a bit like July. Let's take a look at our highlights of the round. Why don't you kick us off with your highlights from the round of action?
Now, Al Fay, who is a lockdown defender for Collegians, and he's really come into his own over the past 2 years, so he gets my highlight of the round because he kept Kieran Harper to 0 goals just a week after keeping Adrian Indovino to 2 goals. Now, a lot of people might know Al through his work on Inside 50 on Collegians Instagram, but I remember him most from appearing on First Dates on Channel 7 last year, and I still cannot believe that his girl didn't want to go for the second date. I thought he absolutely nailed it, so he gets my highlight of the week.
My highlight of the week, I'm going to take a look at Premier C. Great to see the Roys get off their season to a 2-0 start. Big win against the Pirates down there, and as did Oggs as well, without George Burberry, who we mentioned went to Collegians last week. And Willie CYMS is setting the world on fire. So just 3 sides, 2-0 there in Premier C. Fitzroy play Oggs this week.
This week at Brunswick Street Oval.
It's a big game. Another team that's 2-0 is Old Brighton. We've got a special guest coming up from them. Harry Hill, one of their co-captains, is going to join us at the desk. But let's just have a quick run through of some of the Premier Section games before we bring Harry on. Scobs and OM. Scobs just seem to have set the bar again, and they're going to go and reach and try and defend their title.
Yeah, correct. And they're looking every bit like they will. I know we'll get on to Collegians in a minute, but they look like the 2 teams to beat already, 2 rounds into the season. But a bit worried about OMs, about where they are at the moment. 2 losses to start the year, and they've got a do-or-die clash. Not do-or-die, but a really important clash up against Uni Blues this weekend.
Blues is the interesting one. They got beaten by Collegians. This is a team that was in a prelim final, and they've played the 2 grand finals from last year and been trounced on both occasions.
Well, the thing with Blues is, last week against St Kevin's, they were 4 points down early in the 4th quarter, and at 3/4 time on the weekend against Collegians, they were only 6 points down. Now, granted, they were against a the wind in the fourth quarter on the weekend. But it's clear that they're within games to a certain point and then just letting it go.
They're traditionally slow starters as well, the Blues. De La Salle got their first win on the board, beating Old Zaz by 10 points. It's the 2 goals in the final 5 minutes, and if you're going to kick goals to win games, that's the time to do it.
Exactly. Now, it was about 10 minutes before that. We'll show the footage here. You got Jason Tart balking, one of the greatest balks you're ever going to see, and then you've got Jake Williams getting on the end of it and taking an absolute screamer. Now, Jake goes back, kicks a goal. That puts him only a couple points down. And then, like you said, 2 quick goals in the last 5 minutes, and De La Salle on the board for 2018.
Old Trinity also 2-0. They beat Old Scotch at Camberwell, and the Cardinals without a win so far in 2018. Right, we'll take a break. We'll come back after the break and look at Old Brighton's win over St Bede's Mentone Tigers, and Harry Hill's going to tell us all about it.
Anytime is the right time to get fit at Anytime Fitness. Access over 400 gyms across the country 24/7 and discover why more Australians train at Anytime Fitness than any other gym. Go online and register now for your free 7-day pass and feel something better.
Welcome back to the Tragics. As I mentioned before the break, we're joined by our special guest, Harry Hill, the co-captain of Old Brighton. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Good to be here.
I suppose you're pretty happy getting off to the season with 2 wins.
Yeah, not ideal, I guess, on the weekend, coming from 7 goals down, but we did have a wind helping us, and we were able to get over the line by 8 points in the end, which was good.
Now, what was going through your head when you were lining up? 27 minutes gone, you boys are down by about 4 points, and you're lining up for goal, about 45 out.
Yeah, just stick it right and let the wind take it, pretty much, which is what happened in the end. But I think it was 27 minutes or something. The quarter ended up going for 36 or something, so it ended up being a bit more time after that. I thought we might be running out, but yeah, it was good to get the win.
How do you guys play that small ground at Brindisi Street? How'd you find it?
I guess we actually played quite well, I think. St Bede's have a pretty good record there from memory, so, but 2 years ago in 2016 when they were in B grade and we're in B grade, we had a good win there. And similar to ours isn't the biggest ground either, and the blowy conditions I guess we're pretty used to down on the beach.
Do you know a lot of the guys being from that part of the world down there, or not really?
Not really, because we don't really get to play them in the school footy.
Yep.
More of the Xaviers, St Kevin's, Wesley's, stuff like that. So we don't actually interact with St Bede's, if only junior footy, I guess under 15s, under 14s, stuff like that.
Junior footy, you played a bit of junior footy at Rovers, I understand?
Yeah, I did. Played first few years at East Brighton, and then moved to Hampton Rovers in under 15s and ended up playing a few games in the seniors there.
How have you found yourself at Old Brighton when you're playing juniors at Hampton?
Oh, I guess the school connection was probably a bit stronger for me. Winning 2 APS premierships at school in year 11 and year 12 and getting the opportunity to play with those guys again, that kind of pulled me towards Old Brighton in the end, I think. This
time round for Old Brighton playing in Premier Section, obviously came up as premiers in Premier B in 2013 into 2014 season and struggled, got thrashed in your first couple of games. I suppose hardly any of those guys would still be there. Is there any of those guys around still?
Yeah,
still
correct. We had that kind of, I guess, 2015, that transition 2016, where a lot of those guys kind of finished up, played 200 games for the club, and they moved on. So the last few years we've tried to get a lot of the younger guys in, and we've developed them. Now we've got a good group of, I guess, 30 to 40 games to 100 games, and that should hopefully hold us in good stead now we're back in A grade. So
the ambitions come into the season. How did you know what the jump was going to be like? If you notice, tell us about the jump from Premier B. We talk about it a lot on the show, how big the jump is from Premier B to Premier. Have you noticed it yourself in the first 2 hit-outs?
Definitely. I think the biggest thing is going to be this year is, no disrespect to any B grade sides, but in A grade, you're going to have to be on every week and for the full 4 quarters. Against Old Scotch in round 1, we kind of found that 3 quarters were really good, dropped off that last quarter, and we're really lucky to hold on in the end. So I think the biggest thing is just to hold on, play 4-quarter footy for the whole time.
What are the expectations coming into 2018? Making that jump from Premier B into William Buck Premier, do you look to just stay up? Do you look to push for finals, maybe mid-tier? What are the expectations for you guys?
I think definitely the goal is to play finals. It might be a bit ambitious. We're not sure. We're only 2 games in. We've started well, but we know, that's certainly the goal, that we want to play finals footy this year.
So Greg's been there is he 3rd season now?
This is his 4th season.
4th season. How's he going? Is he still enjoying it?
He's good,
You're obviously enjoying having him as coach?
Yeah, definitely. He's very passionate about it, and I think he'll be the first to admit that the transition from AFL to amateur footy maybe took him a couple of years, but now he's really embracing the community, getting around the women's footy as well, which has been great. So yeah, he's great.
Tell us about the women's footy. I understand you've got a special interest in their team.
Yeah, my girlfriend does play in the women's team, which is good, but they've been great for the footy club.
So did she play off the back because you're playing, or was she always interested in playing footy?
Or she played a bit at Furbank.
Did you meet her
when she was at school? No. I didn't meet her
in pre-season.
I knew her before that, but she did play a bit at school footy, and then then once the women's team, it was announced at Old Brighton we're going to have a women's team, her and her friends jumped in pretty quick.
Let's talk about the co-captaincy. You took it up with Dylan Verney last year, was it? How does that partnership go? Who's the more verbal one? Is that you, or you lead by your actions on the field?
I'd say Dill probably leads by his actions more. Really solid defender, gets the #1 job most weeks on the opposition best forward, and he's the one who probably leads by example a bit more. I like to be a bit more vocal about my leadership, and I think that really works well.
So who's, when there's a huddle at 3/4 time, when you're bringing the guys in, who's speaking?
It varies. We go week to week, the captain obviously.
Yeah.
So
you alternate.
It does alternate, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So 1 week Dill will do it, then I'll do it the next. But it generally works that one of us will do the pre-game speech just before we go out for the first quarter, and then one of us will do the halftime. So
you've got D-Line next week, or this week coming up. How much do you guys look at tape, and what's your training week like now? Because it's changed a lot in amateur footy. You're training more, I'm guessing. You're looking at tape more. What do you do?
Yeah, we do. We train pretty hard on Tuesday and review the game from the past week.
Is that a video session?
Nights, yeah, video session.
After training or before you go out?
Generally before.
Yep.
So a bit of footage, things we can work on, things we did well. And then Thursday night, bit shorter, obviously. Always have a team dinner afterwards and read the teams out. And that'll be when we have a meeting generally after that, and then we focus on the opposition for that week. Not too much footage necessarily. That's sometimes more on Saturday when we get to the ground. But Thursday's just looking at the key players for them and what they do.
Your Bayside clubs, you dip into the bay after a win after the game, or on the Sunday morning, everyone meet down at the beach?
It tends to be that rounds 1 to 5. After home games, always down to the water. Then about May comes around, June, no one's down there. Everyone's straight upstairs.
Straight down to Reaver instead?
Reaver or the Half Moon, yeah.
Tell us about those celebrations for last year. You guys obviously winning the B grade flag, the Premier B flag. Massive day for you guys, winning the reserves as well. How were those celebrations?
Yeah, they were good. So the reserves obviously had a good win early, and then the seniors got out and had another good win. So that night we just went back to the footy club. One of the biggest nights I've seen. A lot of people there, really proud and happy. And then the next day the players indulged in their own celebrations, I guess, back at the footy club for the Silly Sunday. And then those who were left, I guess, met at the Half Moon on Monday night, watched the Brownlow, and then a few more, I think, headed out after that. So they were relatively large, but well-deserved in the end.
How hard is it when you've watched I presume you've got mates playing in the twos as well, and they've won a flag, and you're in there trying to prep for a grand final? How's that happen in terms of that mentality of going, they've won, gee, we've got to win now as well to really enjoy it?
Yeah, there was a bit more pressure, I'd say. But if anything, it was just excitement and happiness towards them. Because they worked pretty hard all year. It's not ideal, twos footy. You struggle with players, people go away, injuries, calling up blokes to play on a Friday night. So to see the hard work that a lot of those guys have been through, and for them to win in the end, yeah, it was pretty awesome.
How'd you find that last quarter? You kicked 2 goals yourself, pretty exciting stuff. Was there any point in that last quarter where you knew you had it won? It was a pretty close match throughout.
Yeah, it was. We were quite fortunate the wind changed a little bit in that quarter, but I hadn't really done much previously in the first 3 quarters, so was lucky enough the ruckman got a good tap, and then I ran onto one. But I guess probably after my second goal in that last quarter, I thought we had it won then.
Harry, it's been great. Good luck against D-Lar this week and for the rest of this season as well.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been good.
Thanks, mate.
Harry Hill from Old Brighton, the co-captain there, and the Tunners taking on D-Lar this weekend. We're back with more in just a moment.
Anytime is the right time to get fit at Anytime Fitness. Access over 400 gyms across the country 24/7 and discover why more Australians train at Anytime Fitness than any other gym. Go online and register now for your free 7-day pass and feel something better.
Welcome back to the Tragics. Time now to get around all the other games and the competition. Nick, kick us off in Premier B. It's Old Kerry and St Bernard's out at Old Kerry. Again, difficult conditions, but the Panthers prevailed quite comfortably in the end.
Well, they did. Scores were locked at 53 apiece at 3/4 time, so it was a fantastic game up until then. But kicking with that wind in the final term, they've piled on 5 goals 8 to absolutely nothing. They were absolutely fantastic. Charlie Thompson, Will Nichols and Cam Wallace kicked the sealers throughout that final term before Guy Dixon, who kicked 4, and Christian Jacks got a bit of a gimme, iced the game late. The one thing about Carey that I've noticed this year is their celebrations after a goal. Whereas last year maybe it wasn't as much, but there's 8 or 9 after every goal, 8 or 9 blokes getting around to every goal kicker. And even when the game was over, they were still doing it. So it's fantastic. The camaraderie there is clearly fantastic this year, and they were great in that last quarter.
Yeah, excellent performance from them. So they're on top of Premier B. Other wins in Premier B. Mazenod beat Ajax, and I know you were pretty keen on Ajax.
Yeah, I was, and then they've gone out this week and lost by 34 points. Great win from Mazenod to get their campaign underway. If you remember, Mazenod lost a few games. Their first two games last year were pretty big, so they were always fighting against percentage, so this is a great win for them.
The other good result was Corfu Grammarians having a big win against Monash Blues.
Yeah, correct. Now, I know we said Monash Blues. They usually get their players a bit later, but they don't want to be dishing up too many more performances like this. 71 points for Caulfield. Great, again, for Simon Williams' boy.
The Bloods, Haileybury, still without a win after they went down to Bowie, and Blacks defeated Parkdale Vultures. Nick, in the women's competition, William Buck Premier, Scob Saints had a pretty good win as well, as did Q.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Scob and Q got their first wins of the season after going down last year, so it was great for them. But it's Marcelin and Old Zavarians who are undefeated after 2 rounds. Marcelin were particularly good on the weekend. They've beaten Melbourne University, highly touted Melbourne University, by 57 points. Now, I understand there are a few changes made there. I can tell you one thing, I don't think Melbourne Uni will be making those changes next time they come around to Marcelin. They know that they're the real deal. 4 Zavs, Vamua Laloifi. Now, I think she might have 6 votes after 2 rounds. She's come in this year and she is a gazelle. She handles the ball beautifully. She's got lovely skills and she really stands out. Premier B Blue, West Brunswick and Monash Blues are undefeated, whereas Scotch Stars, Ajax and Beau Morris, their game wasn't finished last week because of an injury. They're also undefeated, but I honestly do not see anyone beating Scotch Stars this year.
Unbelievable win. Obviously, had Morgie here last week. Hopefully it doesn't happen to Harry.
Yeah, well, we might find that later in worst case scenario. But yeah, that was a massive win from Scotch Stars, and they're going to be really hard to beat. And just undefeated in the division, Swinburne Uni and Hawthorn have had a great start in Div 1, Therry and Canterbury in Div 2, and Willie C. Wise and Paran Assumption, both in their first year, still undefeated in Division 3.
South Melbourne Districts had a great win in Division 4 to have 2 wins from 2, as did St Francis Xavier against Mount Lilydale, so great for those two sides. Masala did lose to Ely Park, but they did manage to kick some goals.
Yeah, fantastic. After last week, where they only managed 5 behinds, they've kicked 11 goals this week. So while they did go down by about 27 points, at least they were on the board. And after my worst-case scenario last week, they dealt with that pretty nicely.
And just the casual bag of 5 and Michelle there for Michael Neatis, who almost took the mark of the year for the Friars as they beat Bulleen Templestowe. We're going to take another break. We're going to come back, wrap up the show. We've got the best use of social media, the quick questions, and best and worst case scenario right after this.
Anytime is the right time to get fit at Anytime Fitness. Access over 400 gyms across the country 24/7 and discover why more Australians train at Anytime Fitness than any other gym. Go online and register now for your free 7-day pass and feel something better.
Welcome back. Time now to take a look at the best use of social media. A little new segment we've introduced just randomly here, Nick. But
well, we spoke about it last week, how good clubs are getting, so we might as well spruik it a bit.
Yeah, let's just keep pumping them up. I'm going again. You saw the footage earlier. Peninsula Pirates getting on board, filming their scoreboard attendance. Just love the vision of this, and more of this, please, from all clubs. If you're out there, you've all got phones. Get on board. Get some vision for us.
Now, mine goes to a tweet of the week. Josh Sharp, former Richmond Central president. Now, he responded to TJ's tweet on the weekend from the Marcelin Pegs Reserves game with, "Why did Snoop Dogg stop the VAFA HQ match?" Faux drizzle, Andrew. Faux drizzle. And so that gets my social media of the week.
Words for me. Right, onto the questions. Let's have a look at the questions. Who's going to replace Tash Ross Harris as the VAFA Women's Representative Ruckman?
Well, obviously a big out after she won the Best and Fairest in the competition last year, but I think Taylor Padfield from Marcelin has proved that she's the one to take over Tash's spot. Taylor has had 62 hit-outs versus Q in the first round and backed it up with 53 against Melbourne Uni on the weekend. She was equal third in the BNF count with 16 last year, and I think she's clear-cut to take over from Tash Ross Harris. Andrew, is Old Trinity capable of playing finals in 2018?
Absolutely they are. This is a 2-time grand finalist in the past 4 years, and they had a bad year last year, obviously. It's been well documented. But I think the return that you mentioned, Harry Tinney, Weatherson playing, well, fully fit. The one I think is Jacob Steinhardt, back from a knee reco and back playing, and he was pretty good on the weekend as well. So I think they're a big show for finals. And another typical sort of Old Trinity win. They never blow teams away. They sort of just, get there and win by their 3 or 4, 3 to 4 goals, and they're happy with that.
That's all they need to do.
Exactly right. Is this the year of the Seagull in Premier C?
I believe it could be. Now, there's a couple of good teams, Fitzroy being one of them, Old Ivanhoe and Peninsula another. But the Seagulls have got a lot of VWFL development players back. Nick Ebinger's back. Both the Grey Boys, both Ben and Jack, are already finding the goals with 15 goals between them so far. So I think that this year might well be. I think the last premiership they won was about 2011, 2012.
Yeah, something like that. At Princess Park against Thuripanola, I reckon it might have been.
Yeah, and I reckon it might be 2018, the next one.
Rightio.
The last one to you, mate. We've had Harry Hill, the co-captain of Old Brighton, back in the studio tonight. Are Old Brighton, after going 2-0 in the first 2 rounds, are they safe?
100% they are. 2 wins is, in VAFA Premier section, I reckon you only needed 7 wins to stay up. Yep. Yeah, 2 wins out of 2. That means they've got 16 games to win another 5 wins. And they've won away from home, which is important. They dominated the Beach Oval. And they're talking about playing finals. So why can't they stay up? I think definitely they're safe at this stage, which means we've got to find 2 others that might be relegated back to Premier B. Best and worst case scenarios for the week. Nick, tell us your best case scenario.
Well, I know you used them last week, but I'm going to use Kew versus Brunswick Knobs this week. Now, they're sitting 8th and 9th. They've both had a pretty tough start to the year. When they play each other, one's going to win, but hopefully they can play each other into form a little bit and they can progress a little bit over the next couple of weeks. Yours?
Yeah, I think the best case scenario is that for one of these teams, Blues or OMs in William Buck Premier are going to have a win. Equally, the worst case scenario is one of them's going to be 0-3. So that's a dire match, which you mentioned at the top of the show. The other one is worst case scenario, genuine worst case scenario. Zavs are hosting Scobs this week at Toorak Park. Bit of a grudge match between these 2 rivals. And if Zavs lose, they're 0-3 as well. So look out, headline writers, if that's the case. That's all. We've done it. We've got through the show.
Easy.
2 weeks done.
How good was Harry?
He was great. Hopefully they have a win against Delar this week. Hope your team wins as well this week. That's all we've got time for. We'll see you next week on the Tragics.